Recorded live in a studio right next to an actual functioning chicken coop, it's the Indispensable Thursday Show with Sable and Dave.
Oh, she was not expecting that, ladies and gentlemen. All of a sudden, in the headphones came the sweet, dulcet tones of Jesse Dollamore. I have in the guest spot today, in my co-host spot, is a special guest, and you don't know her yet, but this is Lori Cantus. This is my wife, and I brought her on because her improv skills equal that of Dave's. Her improv skills are equally bad. She's just as funny given time, but equally as bad at improv as Dave. And there's a whole thing about Dave's horrible improv.
Oh, thanks.
So.
I'm super confident now.
No, the truth is we're going to talk about a little bit about homeschooling later. So thanks. Thank you, W9or6F in the chat room. I really appreciate you guys being live. So, Lori, I had something I wanted to share with Dave that might have been funnier to Dave than it's going to be for you. So instead, I'm going to tell it to W9or6F. Okay? So W9or6F, which has just become one of my favorite handles. I have to tell you something that that my wife doesn't know, actually sitting here.
Uh-oh.
And that for many years, probably ever since I was a child, I had a hate relationship with women's purses, let's say. When I was smaller, living with my mom, I think that she would ask me to hold her purse once in a while, and I was not really into it. She sort of had a girly purse. It kind of smelled a little bit. I would put it on the ground. I would leave it places. Right? They're magic bags. I'm not into the lady's purse. But somewhere along the line in my adult life, I got a little bit curious. Like, what's in the purses? Now, I found in your case, you use the small bags, and there's lots of things in there. I'm always surprised, but it's not that much of a mystery. But there are some of these women walking around with enormous purses. I mean, they're small, and they have their arm out, and hanging from the hook of their elbow is this bag that's bigger than a military rucksack. And it doesn't look that heavy because they're not leaning funny, but they're walking with their arm out. Right? And it's just stuffed full. Like, I could take my whole closet and shove it in there, and they would just be walking around fine. Now, I've always wondered, what on earth are these people carrying around? Now, I think about it because when I carry my backpack around, I put a lot of stuff in it. I got my laptop, a wireless mouse. I had a keyboard in there the other day, even though I have the laptop, a MIDI keyboard, 2 USB hard drives, a power cable, a Bluetooth speaker, a bunch of adapters. I mean, I got a lot of stuff in the backpack. Although sometimes I feel guilty when I'm carrying like $5,000 worth of electronics in my backpack. There's an iPad in there. There's all kinds of stuff. Sometimes there's even 2 laptops. So I know what's in my bag. When I look at other dudes, they usually have exactly. They got headphones, charging cables, it's simple. But I always wondered about those giant bags that women had. And I had some suppositions. I figured that they were sort of ready for disaster. If a river started flowing through the college campus, I figured those women would pull out a raft and be ready to go. Like their big brothers were Boy Scouts or something. Mm. So I finally, after all these years of not consciously thinking about it, but knowing that it's percolating in my mind.
Did you go through my purse?
I did not go through your purse. Just kidding. No. By the way, guys, never do this. I dumped my mom's purse as a kid one time on the bed just to see what was in it. Just dumped it everywhere. And man, she could still beat me up then. It was bad news. Oh. It was bad. I'm not sure she could get everything back in was the problem. So in my job, I do a lot of one-on-one trainings. And just not too long ago, I had a very nice lady. We finished the training. The training was done. And she seemed very amicable to the conversation. And I said, do you mind if I ask you something kind of personal that I expect you to say no to? She said, sure. And I said, I noticed that you carry an enormous bag. And I'm just curious, in general, nothing specific, nothing incriminating. What kinds of things do you carry around day to day? And it really surprised me what she said. She's like, oh, well, first of all, I have to have a change of shoes. I can't walk around in these shoes all day.
Wow.
And it might get cold in the office. So I got to have a jacket and a scarf and sometimes gloves, but sometimes not. And, midway through the day, I might decide that this skirt's a little bit tight. So I got to have a different skirt in there. And I might want to change the way that all the makeup is going. So there's a full makeup kit, removal and addition inside the bag.
In her purse?
Plus the phone. And the phone runs out of battery, so the charging cable. And the notebook. And the wallet. And every shopping card ever known to man. And not just the key to the office, but the key to her house and the key to every place she ever lived on a giant keychain that was like the size of a basketball. And it was all just thrown in there just in case. And that was not even the half of it. I stopped her and I said, this is going to get crazy. Let's not go any further.
Wow. I'm even impressed.
I'm sure that there was a multi-tool in there and a power drill and a saw and all kinds of things.
Wow. That's a lot of stuff.
Now, Lori, most of our listeners are men, and many of them are of the age to be married or in long-term relationships. So guys, if you want to share what you find in your wife's purse, don't dump it. Do not dump the purse. But if you want to have the casual conversation to find out what's in there, let us know what you think. And check out this new bit from Jesse Dollamore.
072.
I'll try that again.
Tell us what you think. Call us at 657-206-0777.
Man, W9's wife does not have a purse. She carries a backpack. Nope, maybe. Now, this is the other thing. I see a lot of guys carrying briefcases, and they're leaning sideways, and their back's all messed up. And I just know it's painful. So I carry a backpack, and it has the double bonus of sometimes when I wear the backpack and I put in the earbuds, people that I work with think I'm a student, and they walk past me like I'm invisible.
Wow.
It's amazing. I could be in a meeting with somebody and 10 minutes later see them on the way out to the car with my backpack and my earbuds, and they don't even acknowledge me. It's hilarious.
I feel like I need to put more stuff in my purse now.
No, you should definitely not. You find out what his wife does. She doesn't even have a purse, and maybe consider doing that. So as you've noticed, Dave's not here.
He's not?
Dave is not here. You are not Dave.
No, I'm not Dave. I'm sorry.
Right, man.
Right, Dave?
You open
Dave?
up the door.
Dave?
Dave's not here.
Dave's not here. A little Cheech and Chong for you. It's one of my favorite Cheech and Chong skits. Next to... That's right. So we have a much better looking Dave here today. Thank you very much.
Who can see us?
Everybody on the internet, on Twitch, on Xbox, PlayStation, Roku TV box, Apple TV, YouTube Live. Yeah, with our fabulous lighting in the Barnyard studio.
But I might have changed my shirt.
It's all right. I moved you to the right side. You just sit up straight and you'll be fine. So, so by the way, guys, if you're wondering where Dave's political rants are, he's going to come back next week. He sent me a Slack message on the Slackers of something that he wanted to read, and I didn't have a chance to get to it because today was a very special Jewish holiday known as Purim.
Purim.
Now, I'm not going to go into long details for you heathens who have no idea what this is, but basically it's a holiday where you're supposed to get so drunk that you can't tell the difference between the good guy and the bad guy.
And you have to eat triangle-shaped cookies.
Right? And you eat triangle-shaped cookies because that was the guy's hat. But we can't say it today because if we say it, people are going to jump out with groggers and noisemakers and be crazy.
Although I also heard it could have been the shape of his ear. I'm not sure why we would eat his hat.
I heard
weird.
that too, but I'd rather eat a hat-shaped cookie than his ear because that's just gross. It could have earwax and all those like bones in there and stuff. Like,
ears are
and there's
pretty
little
gross.
cilia and
Yeah.
I mean ears can be sexy, but I don't want to eat them. Ugh. Ugh. No, thank you.
Okay.
We're gonna keep body parts out of this. Okay. So as you heard, Jesse Dollamore recorded a few new things for us. He asked us a couple weeks ago not to play the old reading of the number for you so that you could hear this one.
Tell us what you think. Call us at 657-206-0777.
Now, for the kids, the best part of Purim is the Hamentashen. And tell us about Hamentashen, Lori.
Oh, so Hamentashen are a triangle-shaped cookie made from your regular cookie stuff.
Which
flour and sugar and butter.
My favorites.
And then you have to roll out the dough and then you cut them in circles and then you put the little filling in the middle. We use like strawberry jelly or Nutella for the chocolate ones.
I like the Nutella.
And then you pinch them, and so they have to have three corners, so a top like a triangle. And you pinch them, and then you bake them. And then if you didn't screw up, they don't fall apart. But
So
I let my family eat the ugly ones, and then we give the really nice looking ones to all our friends.
So you can break all Jewish holidays down into your age group of what you're supposed to either eat or drink.
Or not eat, because on some holidays we don't eat.
Right, same thing. You're eating or not eating or drinking or not drinking. So in all cases, for adults, Jewish holidays, with one exception, are about drinking alcohol. That's awesome. But when you're a kid, you're not supposed to drink alcohol, so you get to eat cookies. That's very nice.
Yes, all of our holidays have pretty nice food traditions.
Food. Yeah. Food, drink, food, drink, food, drink. That's good. So Dave's not here. He's working on a big project. I don't think that script has paid off yet. When it does, you'll probably never see him again. So I want him to be rich and famous, but I'm kind of hoping that it doesn't take him away from the show. I'm sort of
But I
mixed.
could be your new show partner. Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, we're just going to talk about this
Every week
today.
we could talk.
We're going to start a new show, and it's called What the Hell is Going On in Sable's House? And you're not going to be able to subscribe to it because it's only going to be on one iTunes, and that's hers. No, I thought it would be really fun today to talk about kind of a serious topic, a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and something that, well, you know more about than I do. And I feel pretty competent and confident in what I know, but there's more to it. So if you want to, in just a minute, you know you're buying stuff, right? You over there, you're buying coffee beans, you're buying coffee grinders, you're buying filters for your AeroPress, you're getting the hand grinder. Oh yeah, I know you're on Amazon and you're spending the money. Jesse Dollamore, that's you making the gourmet coffee, right? I'm talking to you. So when you do that, please use our Amazon link if you can. We'll get a couple bucks. If you go to theindispensable.show.com, click on the Amazon button. That'll just take you to the regular Amazon store. There's no price gouging or anything. If you buy anything through our link, there's a little affiliate tag. We'll get $1 or 50 cents or something. I think we have 20 or 30 bucks in our account.
Wow.
It's enough for Dave to pay for drinks the next time we go out.
Nice.
Although the last time we had 20 or 30 bucks in there, it all came from me. When I bought some things on Amazon, I try to use our own affiliate link. So it's, anyways. And last week I put a call out to the audience to buy Dave and I a specific drink, and that didn't happen yet. So I'll tell you, we went to, was that last week? I think I already talked about the bar.
Did you? I don't remember.
When
did you go?
Yeah, we talked about it last week. So I went again after the show last week to try a couple other things. But I'll mention that to Dave. Dave likes talking about bourbon more than you do.
I don't really like bourbon.
Show us how much you think about tasting my bourbon.
It's like, ugh.
Can you make that face a little more for the camera?
It's so gross. But I ran out of wine. Now what do I do?
I go, this is a delicious drink. And she goes, oh, perfect.
I should have brought the box in with me.
Oh, right. So, yeah, we drink the box wine. Thanks to Idaho Dollamore, we bought the Trader Joe's box wine, which is pretty good. It's as good as the Naked Grape.
It was very good.
So, all right, homeschooling. This is a very important topic, and I think it's going to continue to be a growing demographic of people who really care about the education of their children and don't want to fight with all of the craziness in public school. Now, one of the things about homeschooling is that it's not for everyone, especially in Southern California. In LA, most families need to have 2 incomes or they're toast. Most people need to have both parents working and the kids in daycare, and one of the parents' income covers for the daycare and for groceries. Like in Southern California, it's so expensive to live, it's hard to get by. But in lots of parts of the country, people can live on 1 income. Even we have some friends that moved out to Arrowhead, Oklahoma at one point, and they bought a house and a car and had 4 kids on a $12 an hour job full time.
Yes.
Which was pretty fantastic that you could, live it's almost below minimum wage now. Our minimum wage in a couple years is going to be $15 an hour.
Are they really going to do that?
Oh, for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's happening. It's going to be a couple years. But
Sweet. I'm going to go out and get a minimum wage job.
Please don't. Please don't do that. So
Go to Starbucks.
So you can send your children to school. There is a school district that spends millions and millions of dollars, and they make them stand in line, they feed them candy, and they have lots of wonderful, beautiful teachers who are dedicated and spend their life and their hard work and their time to do the best they can to educate your children within the limits of the testing environment and what the administration provides for them. And some school districts are better than others. We happen to live in a fantastically rated school district that I was completely unimpressed with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't impressed.
In fact, the school district literally almost killed our child. Now, I'm not exaggerating about that.
They lost our child twice.
They let my oldest child off at a bus stop 2 miles from home, which might as well have been saying, hey, if there's anybody kidnapping children out here, come and get this guy because he's just wandering around crying. They let him off a couple times when he wasn't supposed to be let off. They couldn't keep track of the child to keep him safe.
Yeah.
And I was kind of putting up with all the other stuff. I was putting up with the prejudice against him for being Jewish, which I had a big talk with the principal about and had to get some things changed. But I could have even understood that. But after all of the events that happened, after all the candy they got fed, after all the time they don't get to go to the playground, after all the fighting to could you give him something at his reading level, please? The school system was not able to help children that are outside of the middle. If your child needs extra attention because they are smarter or not as smart as the middle children, the average children, the school system is a really hard place for kids.
Well, I don't even think it's accurate to say smarter than or not as smart as, because some kids especially boys, I think school isn't really good for boys, but I think it's in some boys, because, and it's not even smarter or not smarter. It's just that some kids aren't ready to do certain things until a certain age.
Well, let me reiterate.
Okay.
If your child is reading above the level of the children in the class, or is speaking above the level, or has better abilities physically than the children around them, they're more advanced. If your child is more advanced in certain areas than his age group, they're going to have trouble.
Yeah, and some kids are more advanced in some areas and they need help in other areas,
right,
and vice versa.
And a classroom with 28 kids and one teacher is not really a great place for the child to get the kind of help they need, especially when the teachers have to follow a very strict specific schedule to get the children to some mysterious level.
Yeah, it's some like the things that they think children should be doing. Those are the things that are thought. Those standards are made by like people in government and not by actual educators, I think.
Right. And with the current policy called the Common Core, these are actually made by people in Europe. Yeah, it's just crowd control. W9 or 6F mentions 28 students and 1 teacher is crowd control.
But you have to do crowd control if you have that many kids in one room. There's like, what else are you going to do?
Well, crowd control is part of even teaching in the college, which, by the way, for the listeners, I've been teaching college part-time for 6 years, and I teach workshops to faculty and staff at a college as my primary day-to-day job. Crowd control is definitely part of it. It's different with young children or hormone-ridden children, right? I can only imagine.
Middle school.
If I had a nightmare of the worst possible place for me to be, it would probably be teaching middle school or high school.
You should just like let kids not even go to school when they're like in 7th and 8th grade.
Right? It's not productive. So one of the options that we have, this is a long introduction to one of the options that we have is not going to the school. Now, by law, your child needs to be educated. We've decided as the United States of America that all children are entitled to an education. And we pay for that with our property taxes, with city taxes. We pay for that in many ways. And the Board of Education and the school districts will give us money for charter schools or other types of programs that don't involve standing in line and raising your hand to go to the bathroom. So everything that isn't sitting in the classroom and taking standardized tests kind of falls into the homeschooling category. So one of the homeschooling methods, and this is something that I personally experienced when I was in high school, I, for reasons I won't go into in the podcast, moved out of my house at the age of 16, and I took a pay raise at McDonald's from $4.25 an hour at like 25 hours a week to $4.35 an hour. That's $4.35 to get like 36 hours a week. So a 10-cent an hour pay raise and lots more hours meant I was actually going to be able to afford to eat and pay the rent at my place. But the compromise was those hours were during the school day, so I dropped out of high school to work at McDonald's. But I didn't really want to just drop out of high school and work at McDonald's for the rest of my life. So I went to the school and I told them, I need to eat. And the only way I can eat is to make money. And the only way I can make money is to work. And the only way I can work is to be at work during the day instead of at 1 a.m. So I can't be here anymore. And they gave me the opportunity to be in what was called an independent study program. So once a week, I went to this district office and I met with some really nice people who really cared for this stupid teenager that had no idea what was going on, that was living alone. And I know that they were making phone calls, right? So now I'm a podcaster and I make less than $4 an hour.
Yeah.
So they made phone calls. There was even one point where my auto shop teacher, who was actually a fantastic guy, good guitar player. We used to do guitar playing jams in auto shop. I took 2 years of auto shop, by the way.
I love shop.
Before I realized that I don't like to get dirty, I used to take apart cars.
Wow.
Right?
Seriously?
Yeah. I used to spend all my time putting on my the overalls and ripping apart cars, brake jobs and transmissions and everything.
Did you see my thing that I made in shop over there? I just have to say.
Go get it and bring it back.
Oops.
And I'll
I kicked the table. Sorry.
That was a Jesse Dollamore amateur moment right there. She has been drinking, though, in the spirit of the show.
I love shop.
You got to speak into the mic.
I love shop.
Great. So here, I'll hold this up for you guys. What is this we're showing to the audience? Can you describe it?
Those are my old initials, LBR, and I made that with a saw, with one of those saws that go around corners. I don't know what they're called, but I'd like one.
Okay. So if you guys have an extra saw that goes around corners, could you please send us a message at theindispensable.show.com, and we'll work out a time to pick it up or get it shipped to you. Yeah, right?
What is that? I don't know what that
Metal?
means.
No, it's a wood.
Oh, it's wood.
It's wood, and he says it's a scroll saw. Drive safe.
Jigsaw. That's what it is.
Jigsaw.
A jigsaw.
So while I was in my independent study, now independent study was kind of a joke because I was one of those kids that in certain areas I was above the curve. If it came to reading comprehension, memorization, regurgitating things, I could read through a workbook and then answer questions and write papers on the 5 pages that I read forever.
Our son does that.
Right? So I was a good student, and independent study was kind of a joke. I think it was for the people that needed a little more help than me. So I breezed through that, and that actually worked for me until I got bored of it and just got a GED. Yeah, my name is Sable Cantus, and I am a high school dropout.
With a master's degree.
Yeah, with a master's degree. Who teaches college? Isn't that great?
Sorry, did I ruin the punchline?
It's
there?
all worked out. No,
Okay.
Thank you. So, but independent study is not really homeschooling. There's some other types, right? So
Yes.
what is school at home? Can you tell me about that?
Well, I think a lot of people start out trying to reproduce school in the home environment. And so that's what we did last year for the first 6 months. You kind of make your kids cry at the kitchen table. Trying to get through. Okay, so school at home is basically like sort of a classical education where you're having your kids learn from books and do workbook pages and teaching them everything that the schools say that they need to learn.
I was trying to do
You
this without
distracted
distracting
me.
you.
I
What was
don't-
that documentary that we went to see? It was so good that we hosted a viewing of the documentary in Westminster for all the people interested in homeschool.
Oh, I can't remember
All
the
right,
name.
we'll let it percolate. We'll come back around to it. So, school at home is like you think you as the parent should be lecturing in world history, in music, in sociology, in science, teaching them math and English and everything. And you should be the expert not only in the classroom, but in every possible subject.
And then you're like, oh, this is so boring.
Right? And you stand in front of your children at the table and you talk to them and they bang their head on the wall and say, please, God, send me back to hell in the classroom. Class dismissed. Thank you.
Yes, class dismissed. That's what it is.
So there was a documentary because we kind of did this program first. We left the public school system and we went to something from the Orange County Department of Education called CHEP. What does CHEP stand for?
Community Home Education Program.
Now, CHEP's kind of cool. They take care of everything for you. They have classes and classrooms and teachers and books, and you meet with a counselor, an education specialist once a month, right? Once a month, and they say, here's your books and your worksheets and your reading, and go work on them and come back and we'll see how you're doing. And it was fantastic because it doesn't cost us anything. We just take the work, you go work on it, you go to classes like art if you want to. The kids had a great time.
Yeah, they had art and Spanish and something else. And like a grade, like with their peers.
Right. And it's a fantastic way to sort of get you used to the idea that, hey, really learning. And this is where, and see, Dave wanted to talk a little more about real subjects. Learning is something that you don't stand in front of a group of people and make them learn.
You can't really make anybody learn anything.
Right. You don't, and this is a problem.
Especially like a 5 or 6 year old. Let me just tell
a
you.
5-year-old, a 25-year-old. You don't stand in front of people for 2 hours and lecture to them and have them walk away be a subject matter expert.
Right.
There are techniques to creating an environment in which people can learn. And in the college, we spend a lot of time and resources learning how to facilitate that environment, teaching as a learner-focused activity, which means I don't talk for 4 hours straight, even though I could. I don't talk for 2 hours straight, even though I could.
I don't know what an ET tube is.
Oh, you remember in the movie E.T., there was this giant plastic tube that they put around the house, and the people wore suits because they were afraid that the alien might have a disease.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an ET tube. So CHEP is a great opportunity, this sort of school at home, to follow a curriculum, a structured set of learning goals and environments. But you get to sleep in. You get to do the time whenever if you want to go to the Science Discovery Museum. Oh, got it. Whoops. I'm thinking the extraterrestrial. That must be my new drink, the 49.
And he said lead a horse to water, but you need an ET tube to make him drink.
Yeah. That means you shove the tube in the trachea and force them.
Yeah, feeding tube. Got it. Okay.
So,
sorry.
The chat room is a little distracting, but that's hilarious. This guy is hilarious.
Squirrel. Okay.
So we're at the CHEP, and I'm trying to talk a little bit to the camera and a little bit to you. I hope you don't mind.
I don't know where to look.
Oh, well, you can look at me or you can look at the audience, which may or may not be watching us.
Okay.
We don't have any idea what kind of audience alphageekradio.com brings, and I haven't asked Todd yet about numbers.
Oh, okay.
For all I know, there's 1,000 people listening who aren't in the chat room.
Don't say that. Okay. I mean, that would be cool for you.
It could be 10,000. I don't know, but I'm here, Sable Cantus, with the Indispensable Thursday
Mr.
Show.
Confidence is very excited about that.
Yeah, thank you very much. So while we're in this school at home program, this CHEP, we went to see a documentary called Class Dismissed. Thank you, W906F.
Which everybody should see, whether you homeschool or not.
Well, Class Dismissed is a really interesting documentary. They sort of focus on a family and their struggle with traditional school and their journey into homeschool. And the fact that there are different types of homeschools, even though we don't label them, including one that kind of has no structure that seems crazy until you find out that your children are getting into Brown University because they prefer homeschool children over regular school children.
Yeah, it's a totally different world now.
So tell me about unschooling versus school at home. What's the difference?
Well, I don't know that I necessarily understand all of it. But okay.
Why are you here then?
I don't know, because you said I could come. Should I check on the kids? No. Okay, so in all fairness to CHEP, I just want to go back to CHEP because CHEP for us, I think, was a really good beginning because we kind of were like, okay, we're going to homeschool. And then we're like, I didn't really know what I was going to do. So I like the idea of having something that was laid out. But then...
Right. CHEP, I just want to reiterate, CHEP provides the curriculum. They tell you should be working on these things. You work on them, which means you could be going to the museum. You could be watching YouTube videos. You could be spending the days at the beach working on these things that you're learning with the children as the children learn to discover.
Yeah. And the teacher we had that sort of supervised us was so amazing. And she was saying, don't make the kindergartner do worksheets. Just do whatever you want. They were very supportive of sort of whatever way we wanted to go. But because they were funded, I guess, or they were part of the
Orange County Department of
Education, they only had certain things that they could offer as far as curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm sure there's a committee that decided this is the curriculum based on what we're trying to accomplish and who our people are.
Right. So trying to sort through curriculum that was really meant for a classroom as a mom that's trying to school your kids was a little difficult for me. But then there's the total opposite, which is you asked about unschooling. So unschooling is sort of this child-led, this is the way I understand it, this like the child-led sort of way of educating. So our kids they kind of figure things out. Like we're their teachers from 0 to the time that they enter kindergarten, right? We're teaching our kids, we're working with them. Like there's no book that you have to read on how your kid learns to walk. You just sort of encourage them, or they eventually learn to talk, and probably if you're paying attention to them, they will learn the alphabet and they learn to count maybe to 10 before, or whatever, until they enter kindergarten. And all of a sudden when they turn kindergarten age,
That was Coda.
What is
oh
that?
man, you let the dog in?
Sorry.
God, he's sitting by you and he's doing the
then
Dave
dog
smell.
farts. And then
Whoa.
so it's all like learning is like fun and it's like full of games. And then all of a sudden when they turn like 5 or 6 and they have to go to kindergarten, you have to teach them. They can no longer learn anything else unless you teach them in a classroom. They have to be sitting down with other kids their own age. And then all of a sudden they can't learn anything, which is totally ridiculous.
Right.
So unschooling, I think, is the way that I understand it, is just a continuation of the child being interested in certain things and learning what they're interested in, allowing them to just explore their interests and be who they are naturally. And I think when they get into school, like if you can't sit down and listen to a teacher, then you might have attention deficit disorder, or you're not good at something. And things like that.
Right.
Am I close enough to the mic now?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
So with unschooling, one of the main things is that when you're learning naturally, like if you look, and this is something Tom said this to me, our friend Tom, a very tall game developer friend Tom, he said to me when he found out that I was going into teaching college as a profession, he asked me, how do lion cubs learn how to hunt?
They go to school. No.
Right? They sit down with a textbook and they start studying the physics of the pounce. No, the lion cubs run around and they play. They chase each other around. They stalk through the bushes. They pretend to attack things. They follow their mom or their dad around doing stuff, and they play. Because in nature, learning for survival is something that we do naturally, that we enjoy. And those small children, they learn because it's fun. They see people around them doing great things, like walking and talking and eating foods that aren't in a bottle, and they learn how to do it. And then when children go to school, they learn to sit down and not ask questions and only go to the bathroom when there's time to go during recess instead of playing.
Or you have to give a ticket. Remember that happened?
Oh, right. You had to get a ticket. And if you don't get enough tickets, you can't go to the bathroom. Like, it's ridiculous. So one of the things with unschooling is to say, you know what? We need to undo all of the damage that was done in these negative learning environments. And once the child is put into an environment where they can learn something they're interested in, they could become real subject matter experts. Now, that doesn't mean you don't study art from a teacher, right? You don't just sit and paint. Oh, look, I'm going to become Picasso. You still have to study subject matter. You have to be in an environment where you can be led in the right direction. But that's why we go to college.
Yeah. So for actual people that are unschooling, they would only go to an art teacher if they're actually if the child asks to go to an art teacher.
Exactly.
So I'm uncomfortable. I don't know. I keep going back and forth. Like, I'm uncomfortable with the thought of just letting my kids do whatever they want. But on the other hand, like, okay, so our 6-year-old, he's all into typing on the computer now. So he wants to learn how to type. So he's asking me to use to learn how to type on the computer. And then he's very into Ninjago. So he's writing this chapter book.
Wait, I got to back up for people.
Okay.
Ninjago. It's a compound word. It says ninja and go.
Okay.
And the world is called Ninjago, but the Lego guys in the cartoon say Ninja Go. So both answers are correct, and Lego Ninjago is a set of toys and a set of TV shows that kids around the age of 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 really love, especially boys.
Yes. So he
the
loves this show.
Right. The 6-year-old is writing fiction because it's inside him, and he wants to get his stories out. And he sees that we're using the computer and typing, and so he sees that as the method to get his stories out.
But he's actually summarizing. So each chapter, I'm not sure exactly, but each chapter appears to be a summary of each season. But so season 6 has come out, but we don't have cable TV, so we haven't seen any of the season 6. So he's written
classic homeschoolers.
He's written chapters 1 through 5, and the way that he can. And he's asking me, as he's doing it, he's asking me, how do you spell this? How do you spell that? So I'm writing all these words and we're taping them to the wall so we can have them for future reference. And he's asking me for definitions of words. And then he says, I don't know anything about season 6. I have to he has to research it. So he gets on the computer and he watches like clips from YouTube of whatever he can. And he says, now I know what's happening with season 6 and it's in my brain. And now I can write it on the computer. So he's done research. He's done it on like a cartoon, but the child on his own has researched something and has summarized it and written, which is a perfect example. Like I've tried, but I'm really not interested in Ninjago. But so he's done it all on his own.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think Jay, Kai, Zane, Sensei Wu,
I still don't know all their
Mia,
names.
I think they're awesome.
Oh my gosh. And if you get the colors wrong. Okay, so then W9 or 6F has asked, how does a child know what they want unless they have exposure? Which is a really good question.
That is the whole point of being able, if you're fortunate enough to have one of the parents at home to do this sort of unstructured education, you get to go out hiking for your school day, or you get to go out to the Science Discovery Museum, or you get to go on a road trip to visit your aunt in wherever your aunt lives. Let's say your aunt lives in the valley. You can spend the weekend in the valley with them, and they can see the world a lot more than they can see in the classroom at school.
And I think too, for the people that are like totally into unschooling, which one reason I don't think that I could successfully do it is you have to be totally present and involved in everything that your kid is interested in. So you don't just keep them in a bubble. Like you take them out, and if you're curious about the world, they will be curious about the world. So they will.
That's called modeling.
They will, and they'll ask questions like, "Oh, I wonder how that mountain got there, or how this happens." And then you're like, "Oh, well, we can look that up." Like you can just Google everything.
You can Google everything.
Remember encyclopedias?
Yeah. Well,
One.
the first. Now I was fortunate in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. I wasn't homeschooled, but I got to go to this special class for children. It was a program called the GATE program. And I got to experience this type of unstructured education where we sort of had like 9 to 10 was English and 10 to 11 was math. And the rest of the day was kind of research and reading. And we read Shakespeare in the 4th grade out loud in class. And I did research papers. I remember writing a 10-page paper on primates in the 5th grade, which my writing was so bad, my mom handwrote for me.
Your handwriting was bad?
Even after I dumped her purse all over the bed, she still wrote out my primate paper for me. And magically, I got a typewriter in the 5th grade and started carrying a typewriter with me to school because my handwriting was so bad I could type. Now, the problem with carrying a typewriter in a suitcase to school...
I think he means dissected.
Yeah.
Oh, gross.
So the problem with carrying a typewriter as a 5th grader is it makes you a target for those mean kids.
I was just going to say, did you get beat up?
No, I got assaulted once. But one of my friends in my GATE class was so upset that this kid attacked me. He followed me home one time and confronted the guy. And this was an older kid, a 6th or 7th grader, who threw his skateboard at me. And he took the guy's skateboard and hit him with it. And the guy never bothered me again.
Oh.
Now, I remember this guy's
detail.
name. Now, this is funny. I'm thinking way back. I'm talking way back to the 5th grade. I remember the guy's name because one of the few authors that ever scarred me in my mind for life and scared me beyond my wits' end was Stephen King. Spelled like Stephen. And this guy's name was Stephen King, spelled like Stephen.
Oh. Same guy?
No, not the author.
Oh, okay.
Not the author. The author is older, and this kid was the same age as me. But he and his family did not have a television set. So you know what they did when I was watching Gilligan's Island? You know what they did? They made carnivals out of cardboard in their garage and invited me over to go through their carnival.
Oh.
Yeah, I was very lucky that my friends stood up for me. I've always been a loyal friend to my friends and not a great person to fight.
You've got tons of friends.
I like people. I like people. All right, so I don't want to go all night long. Somehow, Edgar, I told you earlier tonight that because we were starting late, this show was going to be about 20 minutes. It didn't happen. I'm sorry. We had a great conversation.
Oops.
But I say that again.
Oops.
That might be a next drop. I might have to pull that out. Now, there are some myths to homeschooling. If you're interested in homeschooling, I want to bring up some of the things
Can I go?
that are just absolutely not true. So, what are some myths you can think of in homeschool?
Okay, so the one thing that everyone always asks me is like, or they always say, well, as long as they're socialized, then that's fine. So nobody's ever questioned my ability to teach my kids anything, but they're just worried about their social life. And that is the most ridiculous thing ever.
Yeah, where do you think that comes from?
I don't know. And you know what? Like when you're in school, you don't actually, like, I don't even know what that means really. But like when you're in school, all you have is like the couple of minutes on the playground, and there's all this playground politics. And then you have a couple of minutes at lunch, but I don't think you can talk too much because you have to eat in this really short amount of time. And you only get to actually hang out with kids that are exactly your age or within like this certain amount of time. But we're barely even home. I mean, I suppose there's some people that homeschool that try and keep their kids in a bubble, but most of the people, at least in California, because California is super cool, we try and expose our kids to all these really interesting things. So we're
very
always around
fortunate.
kids.
We have a lot of things to do. Now, there are some cases where if you, and especially in the 70s, homeschooling had a really bad reputation.
Mostly religious, I think.
Very religious, and I don't mean this as a detriment, because you're entitled to your religious beliefs, but there were some very religious folks that didn't want their children exposed to ideas like, hey, guess what? We actually evolved. The world has been here for longer than 5,000 years. Like, there are some ideas that didn't jive with certain religious fundamentalists, and they sort of made a name for homeschooling in the 70s. And then there are a few people around the world that are very isolated. And I mean, like, there's nobody for 20 miles or 30 miles, and the kid or children spend all their time in the house on the farm working and doing school, and they have no interaction with human beings other than their family.
And the chickens. We could have so many more chickens if we were isolated.
Yeah, I don't know about the isolation. So in those two cases, number one, where you're completely isolated from people, and number two, when you're such a religious fundamentalist that the children only ever see the religious fundamentalists, which is a very valid reason to homeschool, socialization can be an issue.
Right. But the way that we do it is we're going to, like, my kids are in science class, and the class covers K through fourth graders are in there, or fifth graders. There's so many kids. So the kids get to be with kids of all different ages, and the older kids get to be mentors to the little kids, and the little kids get to look up to the older kids. And there's just all this interaction. And whenever we go to our temple, I always get comments from the older people. They say, "Oh, your kids are talking to me. They're so excited." And my kids can communicate with kids, and they can communicate with grown-ups and
adult. We call them adults.
Yes,
on the podcast.
Adults. Yeah, because the people that we hang out with, the adults, speak to the kids as if they're actually people, which is really nice. And there's not this separation of kids and grown-ups. And I mean, do you know what I mean? Like,
in many places, children are treated as a nuisance and something you have to keep to the side. But we tend to treat children as equals to us.
Yes. And if we go to a park day or a social event and my kid wants to talk to some other grown-up, for some adult, for some reason, and talk about Ninjago, that person will probably listen with a lot of interest, even if they have no idea what they're talking about, because they want the kid to feel important, and whatever they have to say is important, and it's important to them, and we should listen.
So myth number one is children being socialized. This is the number one thing that absolutely just doesn't happen here. There's no lack of socialization.
Oh, we're with people
in Southern California.
week.
Let me say that again. I'm working my way through a giant 49 here, and I'm feeling very comfortable after skipping dinner. It's okay.
I would have brought you one of those hot dogs.
I don't want a hot dog on the air. Thank you, though. So socialization, not a problem at all.
Not a problem.
Now, how about the other big myth that I hear is, well, won't the children be able to keep up with their grade level?
Oh, well, I think that most studies show that homeschoolers either come out equal or above, it tends to be, to their peers. But if you compare them grade level to grade level, they might be ahead or behind at any particular point in time. But I think, like, overall, when they become adults, it all evens out or they're ahead. And also, like, there's, in school, if you don't hit the milestone at the time that you're, like, supposed to, I'm doing air quotes.
Thank you for specifying that for the listening audience.
Right, for the listening audience. So if you don't hit, like, reading when you're supposed to at the particular grade level, then you're all of a sudden behind. And then people communicate that to you, that you're not good and that you have to get tutoring and you have to catch up. And then you spend your whole life thinking you're not good at something when you might just not have been ready, because each person is an individual.
Right, absolutely. Now, there's another side of that, is that we, as avid, voracious learners, we naturally want to become better and more skilled at things. We're naturally interested. You know, there was a time where all I wanted to do was play guitar day and night. I played guitar 14 hours a day. There's another time in my life where all I wanted to do was play video games all day long. And as I go through phases of complete consumption, I learn a whole bunch and then that levels off. So now I only play a little guitar throughout the week. I'll be playing on Friday, and I haven't picked up my guitar at all this week because I've been playing trombone, which I also used to play 6 hours a day, right? When that was necessary and mandatory and I was consuming it. So sometimes kids just want to hyper-focus on one area. They really want to learn everything about Minecraft all the things about Minecraft and all of the skills you learn through Minecraft, which includes typing and communicating and building and planning and working together. So if we erase the grade levels and we look at competency, my 5-year-old was getting angry the other day because there was something on the computer he wanted to read and he couldn't read it. Now, you can't tell me that child is not going to go around and learn to read because of that. He is going to be reading because of that.
Because of Minecraft.
So this grade level thing is also another myth. What's another big myth that you've heard?
Oh, that I don't know. Is it? Like, maybe that they're weird?
Right.
What are we? I don't know what to go. All I know is the socialization thing is the big thing.
I'm going to tell you, homeschool people are definitely weird. If you look at the group of homeschool people, they've got funky colored hair. They're free thinking. They're not wearing shoes. Some of them are, they have 5 kids. You don't see people with 5 kids anymore, except in the crazy religious groups, right?
Yeah.
It's so.
I could have 5 kids.
No, I'm sorry. You've gone beyond that.
Okay. I'm just saying.
Now, there is another way for you and other women in your age bracket, and that's adopting.
My age bracket?
Now, I can't talk about this yet, but there will be some help for people looking into adopt. There's going to be in the very near future a fantastic resource to help you in the adoption process. And that's all I can say. Someday when that comes out, I'll mention it again to our vast audience. But do you have any other thoughts about homeschooling? Because Edgar is going to be pissed when he sees the show is over 50 minutes.
Uh-oh. Sorry, Edgar. I just think it's, we're having fun. I always think that the people are always asking me, so what are you going to do when they get to high school? And I'm just honestly trying to make it through today. I don't even have plans for tomorrow. Maybe math. We'll do math.
I think by the time children get into high school, they can probably make their own decision about how they want their education to go.
Yeah, and I think like any parents that are frustrated with the school system and they always say, "Oh, I could never do that. I can never teach my kids. They don't listen to me." I noticed that our kids, we started having a better relationship the more time we spent together because they're
Have you heard anyone say that recently? Because I have.
what? Say what?
What you just
What
said.
did I say? I don't know.
Oh, I could never teach my children.
Did I say that?
You just said that.
No, but have I said that in the past? Do I go stir crazy? Sometimes, but then I just let them play on Minecraft and then they leave me alone. That was a question in the
No,
chat.
there are parents that are able and interested in homeschooling and they don't really know where to start.
Yeah, so what I was going to say about that is that I think parents that say that are thinking that they'd like to do it, but they can't imagine trying to reproduce school at the kitchen table, and you don't have to.
I think that's really the biggest myth. The biggest myth about homeschooling is that your job as the parent is to stand in front of them with their notebooks and lecture.
And make them learn.
Right? And pour knowledge into their brain. Like you're going to be reading the chapter at night and then lecturing on it in the morning over cereal.
Do that.
That is the biggest myth, and that's not what happens.
Oh, yeah.
So if you were in the situation financially where you could make something like homeschool happen, because there's lots of education options.
Wait. Can we back up for a second? You don't have to be in any position financially because there are programs that you can join, like the one that we're in, that give you money to do stuff. So,
right, but not everybody has the time.
The time, like dual income.
Even
sort of
single moms homeschool, and they do it by when they have family that can watch the kids during the day, and they work with the children in the school in the evening. Where there was a mom at the class dismissed that was doing that told me, she went to work and her mom watched the kid. I don't know where the dad was. He was not around, but she was a single mom homeschooling. But if you're the two parents are in the position where you could homeschool, I'm going to summarize the way the options work. Number one, if one of the parents can be around so the children don't have to wake up at 7 a.m. and kill themselves trying to get to the bus, you can homeschool. You could start with a program like CHEP or whatever your local program is, where the school district or the Department of Education for the county gives you curriculum, and the parent that is supervising the children at home for their education can work with them and sort of have fun and go through it. That's step number one. Step number two is you could join a charter school. And this is what we're doing. A charter school.
An independent study charter.
And there's lots and lots.
Charter.
There's lots of charter schools that are homeschool based. Sometimes they will provide classes for you like CHEP, or in some cases like ours, they will give you a budget. Here's your $1,400.
$2,000 we get.
$2,000 per child. Thank you. I thought it was $1,400. And here's a list of vendors. So you need to buy the paper. You need to buy the markers. You need to pay for the art class. You need to buy the books.
We got printer ink.
Right? We need to print stuff. This is
yes.
important.
No, it is important.
So instead of the administrators in the school district getting all the money, we get to budget some of that.
And we meet with a teacher once a month, and we turn in work samples, and they kind of guide us if we need it. Mm-hmm. So we turn in some samples each month with each subject.
Right.
And stuff
now with
like
the
that.
charter school, and I'm sorry, I'm sort of trying to wrap up sort of towards the end.
Oh, are we? Okay, sorry.
We're getting towards the hour mark, and that's where Edgar lets me know we went too far.
Oh, I could keep talking. This is kind of fun.
No, it's okay.
I need a podcast.
Well, you would be great on a podcast.
Really?
And look at the feedback we're getting. God, Coda, you're killing me,
yeah,
dog.
I think the dog just farted again.
Good God. Okay.
Does W9 6F, is he
He wants to do it. So
in
here's
California?
Yes.
You should come have dinner with us. I could totally explain it to you. California is so easy to homeschool.
Side note, I've already talked to him about that.
Oh.
But shh, let's not tell the rest of the listeners.
Oh.
I don't want everyone to think they can come over.
I make a really good salad. If you bring anybody that brings food can come over.
Okay.
But I make a really good salad.
So the first option is to go with a school at home type of program like the CHEP. The second option is to find a charter school where you report to an education specialist once a month. Here's the work that we did, and they check you off, make sure you're on track, and they still have you do some of the testing. Now, the third option is totally valid, but you get no funding for it, and it requires one form. Then this one's probably for you, W-9. You create your own school.
Private school.
Your own private school. You get no funding. You have to keep some sort of an attendance log, and then you do the education that you see fit. And that's it, period. You're in complete compliance with the law.
Yes.
It's literally one form you fill out, and if you ever get audited, you need to be able to say, here's some things that we did.
Yeah.
And that is it.
You establish a private school in your own home.
Now, if at this point...
You could call it like...
if we still have listeners at this point...
The School of Fart, and it would be fine. You just have to file it.
Yeah, that was such a boy joke. I can't believe that.
I hang around boys all day.
I can't believe you made a fart joke. I'm so embarrassed.
You're embarrassed? You are not embarrassed.
Dear listeners, if you're deciding that you want to do homeschooling with your children, I encourage you to do so. You should watch the documentary Class Dismissed. I don't have a copy of it for you. I don't know where you can get a copy. You're going to have to go Google and figure this out on your own. It's part of your homeschool education to find Class Dismissed. They do a great job of laying out these different approaches to homeschooling. Number one, I want you to know whatever you're doing with your kids, they're going to be fantastic and probably get into better schools because of it. Number two, whatever they may have been doing in school might have been good for them or it might not have been. And if anything they were doing in school was working, you can use that in homeschool. And if anything wasn't, you can throw it out. And number three, you don't have to follow what anybody else has done. You can find a group. There are tons of groups. There are Facebook groups. Did you say that's where the most of them are?
Oh, my. I learned almost everything I know from Facebook.
Facebook groups.
Is that bad?
There are actual meetups where you can meet with people. Every area has homeschool park days. Find the park where your local homeschoolers meet and go talk to them. And those people are so passionate about homeschool. They will probably even come over to your house and help you fill out the paperwork that you need to fill out.
It's such a supportive community, especially in Orange, especially in California.
And there are two homeschool organizations. Do you remember what they're called?
Oh, CHN, the California Homeschool Network.
So the CHN, I met them at the Class Dismissed, and they'll get somebody on the phone with you and walk you through the paperwork. The website has everything you need. And what's the other one? Do you remember?
I don't know. I think we were members of CHN. I don't remember what the other one is, but it's also very good.
They have camping trips. They have get-togethers. They have the Class Dismissed. It's a fantastic opportunity for anybody interested in homeschooling.
It is. It's so much fun. It's really fun to spend time with your kids that's not spent yelling at them to get out of bed in the morning.
All right. One more thought, Lori. What's your final thought for people on homeschooling?
Oh, my final thought?
Final thought.
I didn't think about this. Okay, but there is one thing. So I don't know if this is a good final thought, but this one really brilliant person said this to me.
Thank you for listening to the Indispensable Thursday.
What was
Whoops.
that?
Sorry about that.
So I was always I think that homeschooling can make you if you're not sure about what you're doing, it can be really nerve-wracking. And I always said I'm just afraid I'm going to screw up my kids. And then somebody said, oh, don't worry, you are. So you can stop worrying about that now. So now I don't worry about that anymore. We just have fun.
That's right. The kids are going to be screwed up no matter what you do.
No matter what we do. So if you send them to school, if you keep them home. But I just think that we just have so much fun. We have a lot of fun together. And not all days are fun and flowers and stuff. But we did make cookies today.
But we don't share the non-fun and flowery days.
We only share the good stuff. And if you want to see the good stuff, you can look on my Facebook page.
All right. So if you have any other thoughts about homeschooling, dear listeners out there in the United States, obviously I should not say obviously, we don't know anything about how the education system works outside of this country.
Some countries it's not legal to homeschool.
I work in the college system in the United States. I'm very comfortable in California in higher education. I have lots of friends that work in the K through 12. I've known people in K through 12 my whole life. Now we know about homeschooling. If you have some thoughts or anything about this, let us know. Let's ask Jesse for that number again.
Tell us what you think. Call us at 657-206-0777.
And thanks, Lori, for joining me and talking about homeschool. This is a great talk.
Yeah, I hope you let me back again.
You can say thanks, Sable.
Thanks, Sable.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Indispensable Thursday Show. You can subscribe on iTunes and anywhere that fine podcasts are served. Join us on our Facebook page or send us a tweet to @SableandDave.